Watcher, Tara again, back for Cozy Cup of Reads, and today I am doing my October wrap-up and my November TBR video. I'm going to go through a few of the books that I read over the month of October. They did vary from what I said that I was going to read in my October TBR video, because I either didn't find time, I was definitely over-ambitious with how many I wanted to read this month, so I kind of chose a couple of other ones that were some audiobooks in there as well, and I actually didn't get to read one of the comic books that I said I wanted to read. It was just quite a lot to read within a month. I did start it, but yeah, I will kind of go through everything that I read over the last month and talk to you a little bit about what I'd like to read over November. Notice in this video I'm going to be using the Kindle quite a lot to show you some of the covers of the books that I read this month, because I did get quite a number of books from the library this month. I have an app that our library system has and I can get audiobooks and ebooks on it, so I used that quite a bit this month, and I don't actually have them anymore. I already returned them to the library, so I'm going to be showing you the covers on the Kindle to show you what I read. First up is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This series is very easily and slowly becoming one of my favourite series. I love everything about them. I don't have the book. I borrowed the book from my friend and I gave it back to her this week, and I have ordered hardbacks of both Caraval and Legendary in wait for finale to come out, so I can get that in a pretty hardback as well. I've gotten an alternate cover to this one that I'm showing you here. I'm so excited for it to arrive. I really wanted it to be here by the time I did this video, but I'm now kind of running out of time to get this video done in an acceptable time frame, as we're already on like the 4th of November. So I read Legendary. It was perfect. I cried. I don't know how anyone else felt about it. This series, I love it so much. It's so magical, and this one just had such a different tone to the last book as well, which I really loved. We just get to see so much of the differences between Scarlet and Donatella, and I adored every second of this book. And the ending, oh, no spoilers, but oh, that's all I have to say about it. So I read Legendary by Stephanie Garber at the beginning of this month, and yeah, like I say, I can very highly recommend this series for anyone that likes magic and love stories and just spookiness and just everything that's amazing. So I recommend this book for anybody that likes that sort of stuff. Next book that I read in October was the final book in the Percy Jackson run by Rick Riordan. This book was so nice. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed finishing my journey with Percy, and I'm really looking forward to starting the Heroes of Olympus series. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, as it seems I have a compulsive obsessive problem with buying books. I'm slowly making my TBR pile about yay high, maybe about as high as I am, maybe more. It's getting long and I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I do know I want to read the Heroes of Olympus series. This was such a nice ending for it, and I really recommend this book for anybody that hasn't yet read it, because it is just one of them good classics that every kid should read, and even every person should read. It's just amazing. And I also read another book this month that is related to Greek mythology, which I will show you next. So that was Percy Jackson, The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. The next book I read in October was another one that I got on the app that I spoke about at the beginning of this video. It was Circe by Madeline Miller. This is an adult fiction novel. It is based on Greek mythology. It is a Greek mythology retelling about one of the characters from Greek mythology, Circe. She's a witch. If you've read Percy Jackson, she did make an appearance in, I think, book 2. And it kind of goes on, it's about her and her life and how she got to be where she was in the Greek myths, and you know, just a lot about her and her life and how she became a witch. And it's just really good. I really enjoyed every second of it. It was a very different book to what I'd normally read, and as it was an adult fiction novel, it's something that I'm not used to reading. Really did enjoy this book a lot. I finished it around the same time that I finished another book, but I was sort of piggybacking it with a second book that was also very good, which I will talk a little bit more about. If you can hear my cat meowing, I do apologize. She's being really fussy today because she wants to go outside. But that is Circe by Madeline Miller. As it was October this month and Halloween was round, and I really love Halloween, and I wanted to read something a little more scary, so more out of my comfort zone, I guess. I had a couple of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go in and maybe buy like an Edgar Allan Poe short stories. I'd seen a couple of people around Bookstagram buying them or reading them, and a couple of people on BookTube as well. And I thought maybe I could do that, but then everyone was doing that, so I kind of didn't want to do that. Then I decided to maybe read the short story compilation that I bought myself at the beginning, which was called The Weird. It has a load of short stories by the likes of Neil Gaiman and other writers around that genre, and I nearly read that, but I didn't. I ended up reading a book that was recommended to me by my mother, and that is Chalkman by C.J. Tudor. This was a really good book. I still can't quite tell if it's like a thriller or a murder mystery or a crime novel. It's kind of, I feel like it's like all of those things. It is based between two timelines. It is based between, I think it's 1986 and 2016, and it follows the stories of a group of friends from 1986 who witnessed something awful happen, and they're trying to cope with their lives like all these years later, and it turns out that there are potentially some things that they didn't realize before, and there might actually be an answer to like the real killer of what happened. And it's very good. It is very compelling. I read it around the same time that I was reading Circe, so it was two very different, contrasting types of novels that I was reading at the same time, and I really enjoyed it. I do recommend this book for anyone that's trying to get into this sort of genre, because I found it really easy to get into, and it's not something that I usually read. So I do recommend Chalkman by C.J. Tudor if you get around to picking it up. It is very good. First up on the list of audiobooks that I listened to this month is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. This is something that a lot of people read quite young, I think. It's quite a young kid's book. I never really read it. I have watched the Studio Ghibli film. I love it. I am a big Studio Ghibli fan, and I did kind of want to see what this was like in book form. I did realise halfway through that I got the abridged version of it, and it basically, I listened to it and it was just like listening to the film. There was not a lot that was very different about it, so I'm a bit disappointed about that. I'm going to probably try and find it in book form, or I'll maybe try and find an unabridged version of the audiobook. I really enjoyed it. It was really nice and light-hearted, and obviously as I had seen the film and I do love the film a lot, I really did enjoy this. So I do recommend it for anyone that's looking for something a little light-hearted and magical, and it's just a really nice and heartwarming book to read. So that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. As I said in my October TBR, I was going to read the House of Night graphic novel. I had already started it at the point that I had put that video up. I did finish this. I really loved it. It makes me want to buy all of the House of Night novels again and just have like a nice pretty set of them. They're so good. I'm probably going to start getting into the newer series. I think it's the Otherworld series that she's written about them. I might even just pick those up instead, but this was such a good graphic novel to read. It was nice, quick and easy, and it went through all of the different elements that the vampires have affinities with and how they related to Zoe as she's going through a difficult time. It was really nice, really easy. Do recommend to pick it up if you like the House of Night series. It's definitely one of those things that's just nice to go along with the set. So that is The House of Night Legacy by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. The next audiobook that I listened to, I only finished it I think on the 1st of November, so I still goes. It still counts for my October TBR because I was only like an hour and a half off of finishing it at that point. And that was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alirsanez. This was surprisingly good. I had seen it on BookTube. I think A Clockwork Reader recommended it. She really liked it. I think Ari and Dante are probably one of her favourite ships, if I remember correctly from some of her videos. And this is a really nice book. It's a coming of age story about two Mexican boys who become friends. They're both kind of loners. They both don't really have anyone to talk to, and they become friends over a summer, and you kind of just you mostly follow Ari. He's the main protagonist in the book, and he just goes through a lot of stuff. And his family life, it goes through his family life, it goes through how his relationships are with his family, and how his relationship is with Dante, how Dante's relationships are with his family, and you kind of just keep, following them as they're getting older and as they're discovering new things about themselves. It's a very nice novel, and it's very sweet, and it's also very dramatic at points. And I do recommend it. It's very good. I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook. It was narrated by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I also really love. There was a bit in here. They must have done it on purpose. It was really funny and I couldn't help but laugh. But at one point, I'm not sure if it's in the book, I assume it is in the book, and they must have hired Lin-Manuel Miranda because of it, because at one point Ari says something about wanting to study dreams, and spoiler alert for anyone that doesn't want to know about this, just maybe skip ahead a few seconds, but he kind of talks about how he'd like to study dreams when he's older because, and I quote, "It's better than studying about Alexander Hamilton," which I thought was hilarious, and anyone that knows about Hamilton will know why I find that really funny. And it was a really good narrated audiobook. I really enjoyed listening to it, and I do recommend it for something a little bit more like easy to digest and just a nice coming of age story about two boys. So I do recommend this book for anybody that likes that kind of stuff. And it's one of very few contemporary books that I've read. So I'm like breaking boundaries this month with my crime books and my contemporary books. I mean, my adult fiction books. It's been a good month for me, really. I'm reading. So yeah, that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alirsanez. That is all I got round to reading in October. I think 7 books is pretty good though. I know 2 of them were audiobooks and they're just a lot easier to bounce with a normal book. I didn't get round to reading the X-Men that I wanted to read, and I didn't get round to reading Zenith, which made me quite upset, but I still did pretty well, and it was because I changed a couple of books that I wanted to read halfway through. I also didn't get round, I did have The Knife of Letting Things Go by Patrick Ross from the library, but I didn't get round to finishing or even starting that because I had so many other ones from the library on the go, and I just had to return it so someone else could borrow it because it's not fair for me to just keep hogging it. But yeah, that's what I read in October. I hope you enjoyed my video, and maybe you would like to go and pick up some of the books that I read this month. I'm now going to talk a little bit about what I want to read in November, but it's going to be significantly less than what I read in October, and you'll find out why. So for November, I've got 4 books that I'm going to attempt to read. And the reason I say attempt and not actually like I'm definitely going to read these books is because I'm actually doing NaNoWriMo this month. So most of my reading time is now going to be spent writing. I have been putting up updates on my Bookstagram account to let everyone know how I'm getting on. I have definitely been slack this weekend because me and my boyfriend had a few things to do. We had a lot of things to attend to this month and sorting out housework and all of this sort of stuff kind of got in the way. But I am spending a large chunk of today writing and catching myself up on where I'm going with it. And yeah, that's why I'm not going to be reading quite as much this month. I'm going to still try and get these 4 books in, and I'm kind of the assumption that as they're library books that I've picked to read this month, I'm going to get through them because I have to, so that I can give them back. And the first book I'm going to talk about is my Ravenclaw bookmark fell out because I'm reading it currently, is Gunslinger, the first Gunslinger book, which is the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. This was made into a movie this year, and I saw it and I really liked it, and I didn't actually realise it was based off of a series of books until after I'd watched it, and I wanted to read it. And I picked it up thinking that it could be in my October TBR because Stephen King, you know, he's kind of like one of those signature horror writers, but this one I don't think is a horror anyway. It's like an adventure story, and I really like those types of things, so I'm going to be reading this. I'm currently on like chapter 5 of this. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's definitely different. His style of writing is definitely different to what I'm used to, but I'm really enjoying it, and I will definitely be keeping you guys updated on how things go. I'm trying not to think about the film too much as I'm reading this, and not expect, you know, because I liked the film. I didn't love the film. I don't remember if I said I loved it. I didn't, if I did say that. But I'm thinking the book's going to be better. I did hear from someone on Bookstagram when I put this up there that it said that the first book is quite slow to get into, which I'm getting. But then the second book gets really good. So I'm looking forward to continuing this series, and I will keep you guys updated on how I get on with reading this. So that is The Dark Tower, Volume 1. The Gunslinger by Stephen King. The second book I'm going to be reading this month is one that everyone loves. Everyone raves about it. It's another like Percy Jackson for me, I feel. Like everybody in the world seems to know about this series and seems to have read this series, and I have not read it. I've heard of it, but I never really got interested in the idea of it. But I'm going to give it a go, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm looking forward to it. It does sound really good. I don't know how I'm going to get on with it, but you know, assassins, it's cool. I don't really know much about the premise of it. I've kind of steered clear of it because I never read it. I never really watched any videos about it or read any reviews about it. So I'm kind of going into this with an open mind and not knowing very much about it. I do, like I said, everyone seems to love it, so I'm assuming it's amazing, which, you know, probably shouldn't be my assumption because I might get disappointed. But I'm going to be reading this. It is book 1 in the Throne of Glass series, and yeah, then I'm going to read that for November. That's all. The next book I'm going to talk to you guys about is one that I have actually talked about recently on some of my tag videos that I did. I pre-filmed a load of tags that I've been sort of like uploading when I haven't really had as much time to film more content. Today is the first day I filmed more content in like 3 weeks. But yeah, it's the Summoner series by Taran Matharu. I have got book 3. I am finally going to get around to reading it. My boyfriend does not need to walk on eggshells when he talks about it anymore because this is one that we both buddy read together. He's finished this book, I hadn't, and when I was talking about it in the book tags that I did the other week, I was kind of like, you know what, I should probably get that. I should definitely probably finish it. I'm really excited about it, and I have been following Taran Matharu on Bookstagram as well, and he's been writing a new series that I'm really looking forward to called The Chosen. He said it was like about dinosaurs, so I'm like looking really forward to that. That's going to be really cool if he writes something like that, because I like his style of writing, so I'm assuming I'm going to like this one too. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that one, and I'm definitely going to buy it. I'm waiting for a nice set of these to come out so I can buy them and keep them. So yeah, I'm going to be reading The Battle Mage. This is book 3 in the Summoner series. It has got orcs, it has got trolls and dwarves and elves and you know, demons and loads of cool stuff all rolled into one, and it's just a really badass series. I really enjoy the story of it and the premise of it, and I am looking forward to seeing how Fletcher gets on in this. And yeah, I will let you know how I get on too in my November wrap-up video. Last book I am going to share with you today is one that I bought quite recently. I went into a bookshop and I was going to buy, as I said in my earlier clip, that I was going to buy an Edgar Allan Poe book to read for October because it was creepy. Went downstairs in the bookshop and my boyfriend was looking at some books. He found a Percy Jackson graphic novel, which is really cool, and I kind of want to buy it too. But this caught my eye, and like I said in like an earlier video, I can't remember which one it was mermaid books. I really want to read more mermaid books, and I haven't read many mermaid books, but this one caught my eye. Look how pretty it is. This is The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill. I haven't seen anybody talk about this on BookTube or Bookstagram, and it is just gorgeous. Like, the detail on this cover is probably one of the prettiest book covers I've ever seen, or I've definitely at least ever owned. And like, you take off the dust cover and it's got mermaid scales on it. This makes me so happy. I am really looking forward to reading this. It is a retelling, it's a reimagining of The Little Mermaid. And from what I read in the inside of it, I'll read it out to you because it just sounds so good. Deep beneath the cold stormy sea, Gaia is a mermaid who dreams of freedom from her controlling father. On her first swim to the surface, she's drawn towards a human boy. Gaia longs to join his carefree world, but how much will she have to sacrifice? What will it take for the Little Mermaid to find her voice? This is a Hans Christian Andersen's world-famous fairy tale reimagined through a searing feminist lens by one of our most talented writers. This just sounds so cool. Like, I'm assuming, the only thing I can come up with, I'm assuming that she doesn't actually lose her voice, which I'm already like, well, okay, what is she going to do? What is going to be the deal here? And I'm just really looking forward to it. I haven't read any reviews about it. I've just been trying to like keep myself open-minded about it and just see how much I love it. And like, even on the back, there's like a little sticker here that says contains adult themes and may be unsuitable for younger readers. So I guess that's kind of like a trigger warning. Don't read this if you're too young. It's not obviously a young kid's book, even though it is about the Little Mermaid. And I am just really intrigued to read this. I'm really looking forward to it. It might end up being the next book I read after. No, it shouldn't be the next book I read after, because I've got all the library books to read first. This one I own. This will probably be the last book I read of the month, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I will probably post a review of this either on here after I watch a few spoiler-free book reviews. I feel like I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to review a book without telling everyone what the story is about, and I don't want to do that to you guys. So we're going to see how I get on with a spoiler-free book review. I'm going to watch a few, take some notes, see how I do. And yeah, that is The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill, and I'm going to be reading that in November.